Everybody Googles everything, especially potential customers or employers, and a business or personal online reputation can make or break you. If negative search results or reviews are impacting you, Webamax is here to help. Our proven process restores your online reputation quickly and effectively, and it matters. Don't let negative results control your narrative. Visit GoWebamax.com and fill out a brief confidential form to see how we can help. Remember, if you aren't paying attention to your online reputation, someone else is. GoWebamax.com.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Baker's, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Baker's worth it every time. Baker's, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
And welcome back to the Skating Penguin Network, everyone. A very special episode coming to you today. For the first time, we have a special guest. We are doing our first interview as the Skating Penguin Network, and we are joined today by CJ Gamble of Just Do Hockey. He specializes in hockey gear. He's going to tell you all about that. And this is Snail's kind of pet project. He's been corresponding with CJ over text and email to get this set up. So I'm going to turn it over to him here in a second. But CJ, thank you for joining us. How are you doing on this? Well, for us, it's evening, but you'll understand when we ask him. How are you doing on this for you, Bright Thursday?
First, thanks for having me. No, I'm doing well. It's a beautiful morning here in Asia. And I appreciate you guys staying up late for me, especially Robbie in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, absolutely. Snail, a little bit of a reprieve out in Seattle. As always, he is here again. And I'm just going to toss it right to Snail. Like I said, he is the hockey gear guy of this podcast. He put this together. I'll chime in when I have some questions. But Snail, the court is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Robbie. And again, thank you, CJ, for joining us. This all kind of started. We got a hockey gear. We get some hockey gear questions on our podcast, and usually I take those. And we actually we got one regarding Evgeni Malkin, and he received some custom Air Fedorovs from Just Do Hockey. And you know what? That kind of sparked the idea. I was like, you know what? Let me try and see if we can slide in the DMs and get you on and not only, we'll get into the weeds and that, and we'll have you bring up your experience with dealing with Evgeni Malkin and his camp and however that went. But just to kind of talk about this Just Do Hockey, because it has taken off on social media. And I'm super excited to kind of dig in the weeds about it. You're also, you're kind of, you got your hands in a little bit of everything. Verbero hockey and Hopa hockey, as well as a couple other things maybe you could give us a little bit of info about. But welcome CJ Gamble. And I guess the first question I had for you here to kind of kick this off was, tell us a little about who you are and where you're from.
Sure. Thanks again for having me. And I was born in Central California, but my whole family is from Western Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. 3 brothers, 3 sisters. My mom, my dad, my grandparents are all from New Wilmington area, which is like northwest of Pittsburgh a little bit. And then when I was a little bit older, we moved back there. So I kind of grew up between the West Coast and the East Coast. But always been a diehard Penguin fan from the early days. I'm a hockey designer. I got into the business a long time ago. I actually went to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh in the it's not there anymore, but I got my industrial design degree there, studied industrial design and graphic design when I was there. And I grew up playing hockey, and I was managing some hockey leagues and rinks, and I always wanted to start developing my own products, and that's kind of where I started. Actually, it was with Verbero first, a long time ago. But yeah, that's kind of how it all began, and started making hockey equipment.
That's awesome. Was Verbero, was that in the NHL? Were they using Verbero in the NHL at one point?
Yeah. So actually, that was kind of at the peak. We had the NHL license for several years. Some of our top players, Cam Atkinson was probably the best player at that time who used our gloves. But there was around a dozen players that were using our gloves and other products. Our shield line of protection, which was developed by Dan Farrell, which is the under protection. Holtby wore it his whole run, into winning.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and for the goalie shirt, and there was quite a few guys that were using it. So that was a very exciting time.
That's awesome. I think that's super cool. And you said you grew up between the West Coast and the East Coast, running some leagues. And I guess just curious, are you playing hockey? Are you involved in hockey where you're at over there in Bangkok right now?
Yeah. It's actually it's like a hidden gem in the hockey world here when it comes to Thailand.
I'd have never guessed.
Yeah, there's a ton of amazing new facilities here, like Olympic ice, and it's really quite phenomenal as far as facilities go. We have a league called the Siam Hockey League, which is like the top level league here. There's a lot of great players, some former pro guys from Europe, and a lot of collegiate players and former junior players that play. I'm like the resident grandpa in the league as the old guy, but yeah, I'm still playing in that. And they also have a league called the BIHL, the Bangkok Ice Hockey League, which is the summer league. And it's that one has, I don't know, like at least 10, 12 very high level teams, which is mixed more with the young local players. And they're phenomenal. Like if you check out the Thailand national men's and women's ice hockey teams, they both won gold recently in their tournaments, IHF. And those are all local players. So yeah, it's hockey's growing a lot in Asia, and Thailand especially. It's really becoming a big part of the culture here.
That's incredible. Honestly, I would have never guessed. Do you get a lot of expats over there?
Oh yeah, there's a lot in our league. It's in the SHL. It's at least probably half, if not more, expats. Just a lot of guys from all over, from US, from Canada, from Europe. But it makes it fun. You definitely you're mixing in with guys from all over the world, and as well with the local guys, and it makes it more of a fun experience. From a league and team standpoint.
Is over there. I mean, you have Thailand's a relatively populated country. I had to look it up. You're roughly 66 million people in a not very big space. But is Bangkok like the center of all this? Like, obviously it's the capital, but I'm sure you have rural areas as well, even though it is a relatively densely populated area. But is Bangkok kind of the center for this hockey explosion? And where else in Asia? I know that the NHL's dipped its toe in China. Where else in Asia are we kind of seeing this kind of gaining interest in the game of ice hockey?
Sure. Yeah. So Bangkok is definitely the heart of Thailand. The biggest city, and there's a handful of rinks here. There were two brand new ones that were just open recently, and actually, the owner of the rinks, he just opened another one in Chiang Mai, which is in the north. It's the northernmost city, and then in Phuket, which is in the south. It's an island. There's a rink there. It's a smaller rink, but there's a lot of Russian players that live and play there full time. There were even a few ex-NHL players. Alexander Semin I think lives down there, and he was playing in the league or playing with them. So yeah, I mean, it's really all over the country. But I before living here, I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, and it's similar there as far as they have a good number of rinks as well as several new ones. They have a league there that they have a few leagues, but they have one that's very similar to our SHL league here, and again, full of expat players, very high level. It was actually full contact. Yeah, it was that was a ton of fun. It's still going on. There's Robbie Schremp, who played for the Islanders.
Love Rob Schremp.
Yeah,
Astro Mitts.
Yeah, he's also actually, we can get back into him later because he messaged me about Just Do Hockey. But he lives in Hong Kong right now, and he plays in that league. It's as far as Asia goes, Hong Kong has a lot of hockey. Macau has hockey, which is right next door, to Hong Kong. It's even smaller than Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Philippines has a lot. Of course, Japan and Korea are tremendous. I mean, they're like top level teams. China is really pushing to grow a lot, and they obviously have the resources to do it. So I don't know what to project for them, but I do think that they'll catch up pretty quick, just with what they have going on there. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's pretty much everywhere. Something else really exciting is Cambodia, which is smaller country right next to Thailand. They just opened up. They have a beautiful roller hockey rink, which is one of the nicest in the world that I've ever been to. And we play tournaments there, and they have a great league for roller hockey. But then they also just opened up like a similar ice hockey rink, and it literally just opened like last week. So it's definitely growing a lot over here.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, you grew up in the Pittsburgh area, CJ. So you hockey is much different now in the Pittsburgh, Western PA area than even when it was when I was growing up in the 90s. Mario kind of brought in that first wave, and now Crosby it just absolutely exploded. So to see it from even afar, Thailand is starting from basically scratch when it comes to, and all of Asia mostly. I mean, hockey never really had a footprint there. What other sports, like in the United States, you have the NFL, basketball, all these popular sports. What are you competing with in Thailand and the rest of Asia to pull these athletes from? What other sports is hockey competing with to gain in popularity? Because I know there's a lot of popular sports in this area, but what are the most ones that are kind of getting all the players that hockey has to kind of pull from and kind of compete with to become a more international sport in this area of the world?
That's a really good question. I don't think that they're necessarily competing with the main sports over here. The national sport is Muay Thai, which is the Thai boxing, kickboxing, and but they're not really competing with that as far as popularity, or even trying to get kids in to play football, or soccer is really popular over here. But I think the biggest, just in my opinion, the biggest limitation is that hockey is an expensive sport to play anywhere, and that you're mainly drawing from the more affluent families, and I think fortunately in Thailand it's a very wealthy country, and they have a lot of families over here that can afford to play. I think that over time, if they can make it more open to more kids and families, that make it accessible where they can afford to play, and there's different things they can do for that. Like I know the NHL is trying to do a lot in the US, like with the Little Penguins program, and a lot of teams are doing that to try to get more kids involved. I think that would be the biggest thing, as far as just cost prohibitive.
Yeah, kind of a common issue out here in Seattle. I mean, there's been minor league teams, WHL teams for a very long time, long history of that here. But with the Kraken, the first NHL team kind of showing up, you're starting to see all these programs start to pop up. A lot more kids starting to be introduced to hockey at young ages, and that simply wasn't there before. You go over the border, north of the border, up in Vancouver, BC. They've got, are you familiar with the hockey shop Coast to Coast?
Very familiar. He's Sean, the owner of Coast to Coast, is works with me for Just Do Hockey.
Does he?
He's one of the, I guess you'd say, one of the OG members. Yeah.
He's a beauty. I've never met him, but I talk with him every once in a while, and I order a ton of stuff from Coast to Coast. But you go right north over the border, and they've got, the roller hockey, like outdoor rinks, and they've got the another thing in Canada that they have that they don't have just right here south of the border is the lacrosse boxes that people double use as a roller rink. So I think it's interesting to hear from you how much of an explosion there is in such an interesting part of the world. I wanted to ask, how's the ice? Because it's so hot and humid over there, do you ever have issues with the ice, or is that ever like a common thing that happens, or do they do a really good job of keeping it nice?
Yeah, generally they do a pretty good job of keeping it nice, especially these new rinks. They do a great job. There are some older rinks around Asia, but where sometimes they have some issues with the compressor or whatever. But yeah, generally it's pretty good. I mean, considering it's always like 90 plus outside every day with 90% humidity. It takes a lot of energy, but yeah, I mean it's not going to be the same as like the ice in Pittsburgh in the winter, but yeah, it's you can't really complain about it. And another cool thing that we just had open here recently is an American guy named Andy. He's from New York, a friend of mine. He just opened the first roller hockey rink here, which is an indoor rink, and it's a rink and training center, which they haven't had before, where there's like a shooting room and stuff like that, where you can just practice your shooting, and then they have a small roller hockey rink. But that's the one thing in Thailand that is a little behind as far as compared to the other countries like Hong Kong and Macau and other places that roller hockey is really huge in those countries. Same thing with Japan, Korea. It's just kind of starting out here, where ice hockey is huge, and now they're going to be slowly getting into roller. Yeah, it's that's the one thing that's kind of new here.
That's interesting, because you'd think, like you said, hockey's an expensive thing, and I think one of the biggest expensive for hockey has got to be, I mean, it's first of all, it's the gear and stuff, but paying for ice and, roller hockey, it's a little bit more accessible. It's a little bit easier to find a piece of pavement or for a city to fund a sport court than an ice rink. So I'll be interested to see how that all kind of goes. I love roller hockey. The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on, unless Robbie had anything else about kind of the hockey scene over where you're at, is with the locals, how is the skill level? Are you seeing a ramp up in like the skill level since the expats and kind of these hockey leagues are kind of taking off? And how is the skill level over there? And what are you kind of seeing, boots on the ground?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking to me, the skill level over here, how high it is. I take videos because before we skate like 2 or 3 times a week. The kids are out there practicing, and I'll take videos of 10 under, 12 under, and I send them to my friends in the US, and they're just like blown away, like how these are all local kids and they're just phenomenal. And I think the biggest part of it is that they have the budget over here where all the coaches are high level pro coaches from US, Russia, Canada, Europe, and they and they're on the ice with the kids every day. And that's one thing that it's probably superior here that compared to the US is that, you have really high end pro coaches that are working with the kids from a young age all the way up, where it's not, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it's not like, getting volunteer parents to come in and coach. Like this is like, really high level. So the kids, they catch up real fast. And I think that, as far as their on ice awareness, that's the one thing that they have to develop. But as far as their skills when it comes to skating, puck handling, like they're, you could pluck one of them out and put them in Sweden and Pittsburgh and Toronto or whatever, a 10 or a 12 and under, and they're going to jump right into a team. And I don't know if they can jump right into AA, AAA level, but they're pretty close as far as their skill level. It's really impressive what they've done here.
That's incredible. Any prospects to keep an eye out? Anyone from Thailand pushing to ever maybe crack the NHL or maybe up in the juniors or anything like that?
I think that not at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the, like I said, these kids now that are 10, 12 years old, that in the next 5 years, some of them develop to getting to that level. I met with, there was one I was skating with last week who was 16, and he's going to Winnipeg to play next year, and he's 15 or 16. And it's just really exciting seeing these kids that are, Thai born and bred, and they're going to go to some of these most competitive environments for hockey, and they're going to go play there. So I think you're going to start seeing more and more of that, and then eventually you'll see it happen.
I believe it. From what you're saying, it sounds like it. That 15 or 16-year-old is going to be in for quite the shock of going from 93-degree Thailand to Winnipeg in January.
Yeah, I warned him about that. I said, make sure you get your Patagonia or North Face jackets ready, because you're going to need a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, if you guys don't mind, I was hoping maybe we could move on and pick CJ's brain here about Just Do Hockey. Like I said, it's taken off all over social media. Those are familiar with Pavel Barber, skills coach, just an unreal guy. I've had some conversations with him just through Instagram and stuff. He's a good old Canadian boy. And he has a phenomenal video of him rocking the Just Do Hockey tip to tail, with the Nike hockey stick. I guess I just wanted to ask you quickly, like, what sparked this endeavor?
It's a good question. It was very innocent, and it kind of was sparked out of boredom. But during COVID, it would have been, I guess, like 2021, and I was in France, and it was like, super lockdown there, as far as, what you could do and where you could go. So I was pretty much trapped inside in the winter. The rinks were closed, gyms were closed. There wasn't, malls were closed, restaurants were closed. So I was just kind of sitting around watching YouTube, and I was watching the old highlights of Fedorov the first year when he was using the original Nike skates that were never produced. And it just kind of hit me. I was like, you know what, like I could make these, like, pretty easily. And I was like, what would it look like if I made them using today's technology and materials, like if I can make them stronger and lighter, but still keep that original look. So I spent a few days, and I just kind of sketched it up, and then I eventually, got on my computer and, over time designed it. And then I sent it, actually, the first person I sent it to, it's funny you mentioned, was Sean at Coast to Coast, because he's been I've been friends with him a long time, and I know that he's, passionately loves the old Nike hockey. He loves a lot of old vintage hockey stuff, but, he's super passionate about it. And he was, really excited, and he's like, oh, he's like, please, just, if you end up making a pair, just make me a pair too, please. And I was like, okay, we have to be careful, because I'm not supposed to do this, but, and then Tony Hedrick, who is an incredible designer who works with him, kind of jumped in and was like, he's equally passionate, if not more passionate about it. And he kind of said the same thing and said he wanted to be involved. And then from there, Sean was like, maybe we get a pair to Brandon, to Pavel Barber, and, maybe he does a video with him. And I was like, okay, we can try it. And like, let's just, see what happens. And from there, it really exploded. And, that wasn't the intention initially. It was just more like I wanted these for myself, and then a few of my close friends, like, really like begged me for them too. So I said, okay, we'll make 3 or 4 pair here, and everybody gets a pair. But yeah, I mean, that's how it started. And then from there, it kind of became something else where, we started getting, once Pavel Barber did his posts and it, went through other channels, then, we started getting, just thousands and thousands of messages from people saying how they remember the old Nike hockey and they love it. But, not just older guys like me who grew up playing in the 90s, but even, young players today, which I was really surprised, that are, maybe 16, 17 years old, that they weren't alive when Nike hockey was around, but they still want it. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning.
Well, that's super cool. And I wanted to say, because I think, I don't know if Robbie would know this, but the Nike hockey stuff, it wasn't necessarily like the best. I mean, that was my opinion of it. Some of it was actually quite heavy, much like a lot of equipment kind of was back then, clunkier. what are some of like the challenges you ran into kind of making these things? Like, were you literally like, were you putting together like samples, like sewing and stitching these types of things? And I guess another challenge I'm curious about too was, keeping it kind of on the down low. Cause once you get it into the hands of a guy like Brandon or, even the Coast Hockey guys, they have a pretty big following. They leak one of those things out, that especially with the climate today, something like that's going to take off. And, you know, I know that from your mission, you want to eventually collaborate with Nike as a partner, but, keeping that kind of on the down low and keeping it from spreading like wildfire, I'm assuming was one of the challenges as well.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to answer your first question, I didn't fabricate the skates myself. So I mean, and luckily for me, I've been in the hockey design and production business for so long that I have some really good partners and friends at factories that I work with on many brands, and you know, going all the way back to Barbero, and now I work with Alkali, Mars Blade, Tron. I've worked with many brands, and I contacted them and kind of explained what I wanted to do and what the hope was, and they were willing. I didn't know if they'd be willing to do it because there's some risk, you know, from their side, but they said, yeah, let's try it and let's see what happens. So, you know, for me, it was more a matter of creating a design that would be, I guess, cost effective, because when you make when you're developing a new product and there's molds or tooling involved, you know, that's something I have to pay for. So I just have to always be mindful of that. And but then, yeah, from there I provide all the information, the designs, and then they just run with it and they're able to create it. As far as keeping it quiet, it was really just me, Tony, Sean, and Pavel Barber. So, you know, nobody was saying anything. It was kept, super quiet. And then once we, because we actually started posting some little tiny things originally, like some little pictures and videos before Pavel Barber got his and posted them when we first got the samples. And it's interesting, like, it didn't really get much attention as far as, I don't know, maybe it got like 40 likes or something. And then as soon as it went with him, then it obviously exploded, because then it really goes to everybody. So yeah, that once that happened, the cat was out of the bag.
Cat was out of the bag. And from reading like the Just You Hockey Instagram, phase 1 has officially ended in February. You moved into a phase 2 is what you're calling it. And I guess one thing I was curious is, the cat is out of the bag. Has Nike reached out to you, or have their execs come knocking at your door or anything regarding any of the stuff that's kind of been floated out there yet?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so first I'll say that before I started making everything, I talked to a close friend who worked for Converse over here in Asia for a long time, another hockey player. And I kind of explained what I was trying to do and asked his opinion. And he said straight up, he's like, as long as you're not selling anything, it's just proof of concept. Like, you should be, everything should be fine. It'd be different, obviously, if I was making them and selling them, then that would be, totally different. But making it as a proposal, then that should be fine. So that was my first step. And then once we started posting everything, I started getting in contact with people from Nike Europe first, and then Nike corporate. And I got these messages from people saying like, hey, we work with Nike. We love this. Like, we really hope it happens. And then I would reach back out to them. Okay, like let's work together. Like, how can we make this happen? And there's one person in particular who works at Nike corporate. I won't say who it is, but he's been really helpful as far as giving me guidance, as far as working together and trying to create the best proposal. And for me, I have in the proposal multiple ways that this could happen. So that eventually, the hope is that Nike will decide they want to, follow one of these paths. But I think one thing that's really important for everybody to understand, because we get a lot of messages from very passionate people, saying how they love what we've created and they want it like right now. And I think, that's kind of the world we live in, right? Like everything, whether it be, ordering food online or through Amazon, like everything is available right now.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, and with this project, it's going to require patience, because I think if you really follow along with the history of Nike hockey, it ended 20 years ago, and it was like beyond dead and buried. Like, they basically, Nike said, like, this is it. Like, we are never getting into the hockey, not officially, but from what I've heard, they've said they're never getting back into hockey again. They said this 20 years ago. So like the scale of which we're trying to do is like, you're trying to convince Nike, one of the biggest, most powerful companies in the world, to do something that they said they never wanted to do again. And I think, we've taken the first steps, which is, showing that, hey, there are actually, people that want this stuff, that like, maybe now is a better time to recreate some of this. And then also we're trying to show that it can be done, that we can create it. We can create the products that people and the designs people will want. And then not just, everyday players, but even, like you said, pro players. So that's kind of where we were with that.
I will say Nike is an international brand. The swoosh, everybody knows the swoosh. What is it like identification wise in a place like Thailand or Asia? Is it synonymous with this is elite apparel? How is it viewed over there? The swoosh, especially. Obviously, in the United States, you see Nike. You know what it is. You probably athletes that wear it. I mean, so what is its brand recognition over where you currently reside?
Sure, that's a good question. I've asked a few people in Asia, not just Thailand, but other countries like Taiwan. I do a lot of work there, and the mentality regarding Nike is that it's, I think it's associated as a luxury brand. Not like the way you would imagine, maybe like Gucci or Prada, but it's for generally for people, I think in Asia, I mean, there's a lot of very wealthy people in Asia, of course, but generally it's there's a large part of the population is not so wealthy, so they look at Nike products and they're obviously more expensive. So I think they a lot of them view it as a very high-end brand, but they love it. I mean, it's kind of my wife is from France, and it was the same thing over there. They love Nike, they love Coca-Cola, as much as they kind of crap on the Americans, they do love a lot of the American brands. So it's the same thing over here. Like, they love it a lot. When I first got the skates and we went to the rink and we were doing a very short video and photo session, there was a youth tournament that had just ended, and there were like 200 or 300 people in the rink, and I was kind of really nervous and uncomfortable because it's the first time me bringing the skates out in public and then going on the ice, and I was the only one on the ice, me and the videographer, and then there were all these people around, and like it was I didn't really know what to expect, but they were all going crazy for the skates and the stick and the gloves. So it was definitely, and again, like these are young kids for this tournament, so like none of these kids, and probably even a lot of the parents, weren't alive when Nike hockey was around, but they were still really gravitating to it, which was really cool. It kind of shows to the potential of what could be. That's
nuts, and it doesn't surprise me because I've heard stories even from Europe that the American brands do extremely well. You mentioned your wife is from France, and a few weeks ago, maybe months ago at this point, I was reading an article in the New York Times about how American brands have kind of exploded in France, especially in Paris, where French culture is so important to them, but American culture comes in and has an absolute explosion. And to see that in Asia is pretty incredible as well, especially with, again, Snail and I probably don't view Nike as a luxury brand. We probably view it as strictly a sportswear brand. Their products are on the higher end for your basketball shoes and sneakers. But I mean, as a luxury brand, I understand that I wouldn't put it in the level of Gucci or Prada and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. And you were talking about the kids, and I just want to just as a curiosity more on my end, if you go over there and you ask them, if you show them a picture of Sidney Crosby, would they know who that is?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they would. There's quite a few kids here that they wear their favorite player jerseys on the ice when they're out practicing, and there's a few Crosbys. But there's definitely no doubt they would know who he is. They would know who Malkin is. They would know who Letang is. No question.
Like Ovechkin and stuff, I'm sure have that same kind of.
Absolutely.
Is there like a cutoff to like, and at least that you've seen, like, okay, Crosby, Malkin, those big names, but like, is there like a generational cutoff where like if you show them a Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux, would they be familiar with who those people are?
I would say yes. I would say probably maybe you're talking at least 14, 16 years old. Under that, they maybe are familiar with the name, but I don't think otherwise they're more just looking at Trevor Zegras and the young guys today that are Matthews and McDavid. Those are that's their generation now, but they no doubt they would know who Crosby is.
Who, like, an example, like we have LeBron James, Tiger Woods here. Who over there is the icon of sports, kind of like, and what does he or she play?
There's a kickboxer, and I follow him on Instagram, but I don't want to like mispronounce his name. But he's very popular, but he's also older now. He's probably my age, so he's like in his 40s, and he actually still is competing, which is amazing. But he's when it comes to like kickboxing, he was, I don't know, I mean, kind of like Jordan or Muhammad Ali as far as his abilities, what he could do, and his longevity. So he's for the Thai people, he's extremely famous. They've had obviously many very famous fighters, but I mean, I'm trying to think like beyond that as far as other sports go. I mean, basketball is incredibly popular in Asia. It's probably basketball and soccer are the two most popular sports, and they love the European sports. Soccer, like Liverpool and Manchester United, and they love those teams over there, or over here, I should say. But beyond that, I don't know. Like American football is not really popular. Baseball is not really popular. Like occasionally, when I was in China working with the factories, I would wear like my pirate hat, and once in a while, a random Chinese person would come up to me and be like, "Oh, Andrew McCutcheon."
Oh wow!
I'd be like,
that's
"Wow,
crazy."
I'd be like, "That's really cool." Like they actually, there's a few of them, and I randomly meet some that like American football, like but it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not. The way it is everywhere else in the world.
Absolutely, I understand that, and that was just my curiosity. Snail, you can get back to the gear talk. That was just my curiosity.
No, that's interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how they view one, kind of the lens which they view America and the companies, the brands, and then being a budding hockey nation, do they recognize the names that are promoted here in the United States? So it's really cool to see that if you show them a picture of Crosby or McDavid, they'd be like, "Oh, I know who that is." That's pretty cool. So, Snell, I'll hand this back over to you.
No, just quickly, piggybacking off Crosby and McDavid and that talk. You mentioned Nike. It's been over 20 years since they got out of the game. Do you think that, I know you said patience is sort of the name of the game right now with Nike, but with the strength of the league and with NHL now back with ESPN and TNT, NHL on TNT has really taken off. Do you believe that maybe you were alluding to it a little bit in our talks a little earlier, but striking while the iron's hot, does it not seem like a great time for Nike to re-enter the sport as of right now when you have McDavid in his prime, Matthews in his prime, Bedard just showed up, and you got a pipeline of great young prospects, and like you've been telling us about, it's becoming more of a global sport. It just seems like it should be, the planets are aligning for Nike to re-enter the juggernaut that they are back into the NHL.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at just from a style standpoint, you look at who was it in the All-Star game, had the custom graphics put on his skates, Marner. Yeah, and you see Matthews do the same thing as far as come out with some really cool creative graphics for his skates, and I mean in the past, like if we go back to 2005 and a little bit before that, it was really like the dark ages of hockey equipment in some ways. Especially when it comes to skates, like there was some, don't get me wrong, there were some tremendous skates and gloves and sticks by Easton during that time. And, CCM had some hits, but overall it was much, much more conservative, which I believe was actually a big part of the reason why Nike originally kind of got out of it. But now it's becoming more open where, players can wear, I guess, flashier, more stylish equipment and not get, maybe not have the same level of ostracization that they would in the past. I when I was with Ribeiro, I was working with a pro player, and he was explaining to me that when he was playing junior, he was a captain of a ECHL team. But he said when he was playing junior in Canada, in BC, actually, he got a pair of I can't remember which Bauer skate it was. It was a Vapor model, but it was mainly silver, bright, like gray and some silver color. And he was so excited to wear them. And he was a hard-nosed player, and he brought him out. And I guess his coach, said, absolutely not. You can't wear these. I won't let you wear them. And again, this was like at least 15 years ago, probably. So it was a different time, but I think that hopefully getting away more from that, I do think, yeah, I mean, like you said, if you imagine, it could be any young player today, like, a Celebrini coming in, or like you said, Bedard, somebody, if they were wearing, a new model of Nike skate, or even the vintage design on a new model, I think people will go crazy for it. I definitely agree that
they'd lose their mind.
Yeah. Well, and I think that I don't want to get into my beliefs and philosophy regarding the hockey industry. But I think that, right now you have a very consolidated line of brands as far as, what's available to players. And I think that there would be, especially in America, I think that people would be very welcome to something new and exciting. I'm not saying this like in a negative way at all, but the reality is that the Canadian market, a large portion of it is much more conservative when it comes to hockey equipment. When you look at US and Europe, they're much more open to, new things, flashier things, a white stick or more white on the gloves or skates. They're open to that. In Canada, it still is not really, I don't want to say it's not accepted, because we certainly get a tremendous amount of messages from Canadian customers that really want it. But it's a different market. And in my opinion, I think that it needs to be treated as a different market, where players there just want a plain, more simple black skate. And, in other countries, they're looking for something different. But I think that that's something as a brand that can be addressed pretty easily.
Yeah, there's still a large portion of the market out there that's still very old school, like you were saying, their way of thinking, nothing flashy. But even in the NHL, that kind of is starting to change. Like you'd mentioned, customization to skates. Players are the Michigan happens so many times a year. And that's one of those things that 15, 20 years ago, I remember Don Cherry was ripping Sidney Crosby for pulling the Michigan off in Rimouski. And, that was the attitude then, but now you got the, Zegrises of the world and the Svechnikovs. And, you got to think, if Nike were to come back, Zegras would love to throw on a pair of Air Fedorovs and go out there and pull the Michigan in a game where 15, 20 years ago, he'd get his head punched in for doing something like that. But it's changing. And, I'm all here for it. I love roller hockey, and I love, you mentioned that, Europe and the US are maybe more open to maybe a changing of the guard, maybe a little bit more of a white glove here and there, or a white stick. Roller hockey's always kind of embraced the flash of hockey, and that's something that I love about it. And I'd love to see more of it in the NHL.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I will say that from my research, roller hockey and street hockey or ball hockey, whatever you want to call it, actually did play a major part in the death of Nike hockey originally, which is simply because when they purchased CanStar, the Nike, when they purchased CanStar, the brand that was Bauer and Cooper and Mega, they envisioned, or they projected, that roller hockey and ball hockey.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become? Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Hockey, or street hockey, would just grow exponentially through the 90s and into the 2000s. And then what happened was it plateaued, and then it went down. And from my understanding, that was kind of a major blow to the project, was that they expected that because if you kind of go back, you can go into Google or eBay even and find some of the original Nike like sneaker hockey shoes, which are pretty awesome. And some of them I've seen them going for like $2,000 on eBay. But yeah, like they had major plans for that. But I think that now roller hockey is becoming more mature as a sport. The expectation is not so high the way it was before. Right now I saw that Narch, for their finals, which will be in California for the roller hockey championships, I think they're going to have maybe a record number of teams, including like 80 international teams this year. And next year, I know, because the Asian teams are going to be going back, there'll be even more. So, roller hockey is developing and maturing. And I do think that there is a place for it. I do think that, like you said, it can come back into the fray now. It just, under maybe a little bit more reasonable expectations.
Reasonable expectations. That's probably a good way to put it. Did you by chance see that pro beach hockey's looking to make a comeback?
I did not see that, but that would be absolutely amazing. So my old coach, my roller hockey coach, Oliver David, I think he's coaching pro now, pro ice, but he played in that, and I went down and visited him. Well, I watched him play a game down there in Santa Monica, I guess it was, and yeah, that was amazing. Like I think you look at the 3-on-3 league that was started by Eddie Johnson's son. There's so much room for hockey to grow. The NHL is obviously the best. It's always going to be the best, but there are other avenues in which to grow the game. And I think, yeah, if you have an outdoor pro beach hockey league now with social media, I think it would go nuts for sure.
I think it's so fun. I think that there's so much room for that kind of stuff out there. Like you said, the NHL, ice hockey will always be the standard when it's in the Olympics at a pro, when you have pros going to the Olympics again, an unreal experience to watch as a viewer. But there's so much room. I love the 3-on-3 league, the pro beach hockey. I feel like that was something maybe, I don't know, Robbie, did you ever watch the pro beach hockey back in the day on ESPN, whatever it was?
ESPN, the Ocho.
The Ocho.
I don't know. Not that I recall. I think we talked about this, but not that I recall. Is that the league that's coming out with the documentary that we were talking that we?
Yeah, it's where they actually had like a big quarter pipe like behind the goalie,
that's
so
right,
you'd see these like dudes on rollerblades just flying up the wall.
Yeah, I was watching some clips the one day, and I don't remember it. Maybe I did because I watched a lot of sports. Growing up, so I probably did at some point, but not to my recollection. But watching the clips, I can see why people it's very, very exciting. It's very fast paced, and I understand why roller hockey, though not at the level of ice hockey in terms of popularity, would be very popular, especially in places like where CJ is in Thailand, where you can do that 365 days a year. I don't know what the level of extreme sports popularity is there with like skateboarding and stuff, but roller hockey, it's a quick way to get one place to another with the rollerblades, and then to play, it's much cheaper than ice hockey, obviously, and you can do it about anywhere. So it's popularity does not surprise me in the least bit.
I wanted to add in one quick story on pro beach hockey if we have a minute for it. But it's pretty funny. But so I said my coach played, and then I was able to play roller with a few guys that had played in pro beach hockey, and they told me that a few interesting tidbits about it was that when they were looking for players originally for the league, they were looking for guys with pro experience, good players, but more importantly, they were looking for personalities. So you had to send in a headshot, like like you're a model or an actor, to be considered. And like they took a lot of that into play. And then when they finally started the league, he said, the way that the arena was set up on the beach, like they had this big bleacher grandstand, and underneath the bleachers was the makeshift locker room. And he said all the players from the teams would be in there together. There weren't rooms, it was just together. And like after the first game, the first half, I guess, they went in there and they were like, relaxing, having drinks or whatever. And Marty McSorley's brother, who was the founder of the league, I guess, or the director, came into the room and just like threw the Gatorade bottles and started yelling at the players because nobody went behind the net on the ramps. And he said all the players were terrified of it. Like they were so afraid that they would like wipe out on national TV and like, or something, and I guess he went in there and just, said a lot of very mean things and was like, if every one of you doesn't go behind the net in the next half, you're cut, you're gone. And,
my geez.
and then that next half, he said like everybody was hitting, going behind the net. And he said from there, then then they got used to it and they realized it was kind of fun. So, but originally as hockey guys, mainly ice hockey guys, they were terrified of it.
I could imagine that because I feel like you would almost need experience like rollerblading like you would at a skate park to be able to kind of tackle something like that. And you look at some clips and stuff, sometimes there's guys, trying to hit them while they're on that. I mean, that could be dangerous, but it's one of the most unique things I've ever seen, that obstacle. The puck never goes out of bounds. Or the ball, they played with a ball. So super cool. I'm excited. They're coming out with a documentary about pro beach hockey, and they're looking to try to get it going again, it sounds like. So like we were talking about, so much room for all these fun things in hockey where maybe it's kind of a changing of the guard. It's not that old school, which at this point, very stale outlook on everything. Let's have some fun again and kind of open it up to more skill levels. But I don't know how much time you have. I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've been really gracious with us, but I had a couple more things I wanted to ask about. Something that Robbie and a couple of our listeners were really curious about was Evgeni Malkin got a pair of the Air Fedorovs. Malkin's a big Fedorov guy, we all know. How did that experience go? Could you walk us through kind of how that happened, and how was it working with Malkin and seeing your product in the hands of a future Hall of Famer?
Yeah, that's another good question. So that was it actually kind of similar beginning to how the project started. But over Christmas this last year, I was with family in Paris, in France, and I was reading an article. It was an article about Malkin, and he was talking about growing up for him. I guess he had just passed Fedorov for second all time in points among Russian players. And he was just talking about in the article how much respect he has for Fedorov, and how he said he's the greatest. Like no matter how many points Malkin gets, that Fedorov will always be the greatest. He thinks he's even better than Ovechkin as well, in his mind. But he was just saying how growing up, watching Fedorov in the white skates had such an impact on him, and how cool he thought the skates were, and that's why he always wears the Nike undershirt. When you see him playing with the Penguins, and he's still wearing Nike shirt. And so I saw that, and I thought, okay, what the hell? I'm going to send him a PM, and I I'm sure he won't see it or respond, but whatever. So I sent him a message. I was just like, hey, if you really want the skates, let me know. That was pretty much it. And then I think I sent a picture. And then like a couple hours later, a member of someone who is associated, works with him, sent me a message and said, hey, he really wants them. Like he's super excited. He wants them like right away. Like, how can we do this? So I was kind of shocked. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, and he was, all about it. So yeah, the challenge for that was the skates. Let's see, I got them here. Like, these are the ones that we started with. The original ones that you saw Pavel Barber using, and these are great skates. Like they're very good, but for someone like Malkin, who's I don't know 6'4" and really very heavy, if I want him to be able to use them, I needed to make some upgrades. So I had a very tight window because it was Chinese New Year was coming up, and the factory would be closed for like 4 to 6 weeks or whatever. So I had to like completely redesign the skates to make a pro model for him with a flex tendon guard, all these new features and new materials, and make a pro stock version. So I kind of, literally over like 48 hours, I just pounded that out and was able to create the designs and send to the factory, and then we're able to make them. And it was really amazing once he got them in his hands. And another kind of cool story with it is that the guy who I was in contact with, who his name's George, who he works with the Penguins or with the players, I think, actually, not with the team specifically. He had all the skates in the room with him, and someone was taking pictures of players that were coming up and like checking. I don't know if he had them on a table or if he was just kind of playing with them himself, but Crosby was like super into him. I have these pictures of Crosby going through the Jordan 1 skate, and then Letang was all about it and really excited. And seeing these pictures for me as a lifetime Penguin fan.
Oh my God.
It was pretty surreal. Like, these are the guys obviously I look up to, and it was pretty awesome seeing them just take an interest in them. And, I know they were asking questions to George, and it was pretty cool to see.
Can he wear them in a game? I don't know how all that works. Is he allowed to wear them in a game?
So technically no, but I'm trying to find ways around it. One of the things I made for Malkin, you didn't see them in the picture with him, but I made a blacked out pair where all the it's the same skate, but just all blacked out. There's, so the graphics are there, but they're not really visible. We're trying to find ways, kind of, sneaky ways, but for now it's, we don't officially have the Nike license yet.
Yeah.
Right. And then we don't have NHL licensing yet. So, so it'd be like a double, so I don't think it would get past the trainers from that standpoint, but we're working on it. So.
Malkin's a guy though sorry, Robbie, quickly, Malkin's a guy though, I could see him just saying, I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? He's got such a, he'll wear like a Bauer glove and a CCM glove. He'll change, he'll take someone's stick that's not even his and use it. I could see him just being like, dude, I'm a Hall of Famer. I'm going to wear these out for a shift. You know what I mean? I could totally see him being that guy, but, I think that would be so unreal to see. And I think that's super cool. You made him a blacked out pair, but sorry, Robbie, go ahead.
No, I mean, he's the 101st best player in NHL history. He can do whatever he wants.
Oh my God!
Did you get any feedback from him? Has he worn them even just to skate casually? Have you heard anything from Malkin or his camp about the skates that you made him?
Not yet. So I was never directly in contact with Malkin. I was only going through his staff. My understanding is that he wanted, because we actually ended up giving him, I think, like 3 pair, maybe more. And I think I think what he wanted them was he wanted to take them home to Russia when he's playing with his buddies, and he wanted to like wear them with his friends. And that's which is totally fine and cool, because I think he goes home for the summer for a month or whatever, and I believe that was his original plan. So
that's so cool. I think you probably could tell this question was coming, and if you can't answer it, I respect it. Maybe you could give us a hint if you can't, but you teased that there was a famous teammate of his who requested a pair as well. Can you break on the podcast who that was, or if you can't, could you give us a little hint as to maybe who that might be?
Yeah, I can't think of a better place to share it than here, actually. So
yes,
the other player is Chris Letang.
Oh.
Okay. So when you were talking about them, it kind of was on my head. I wonder if it's a Tang.
Yeah. So he, this is interesting because I can't exactly remember what happened, but I know George. He messaged me, said, "Hey, Letang has to have a custom pair too." He's I don't know if it's like a jealous thing or whatever, but like he's like he really wants them too, but he wants them to be more customized for him. And then Letang messaged me, and like he actually messaged me on Instagram, which was like really really cool. He kind of I mentioned, he and George, they mentioned what he wanted. He wanted the fleur de lis, the Quebec, from the Quebec flag on the skate. He wanted the blue color like the old Nordiques. And so I kind of created the design. I sent it to him, and Chris was very excited about it. And actually, the skates just finished this week, and I sent Chris a video, and I think he just got back from holiday, and he's pretty excited about it too. So they will be first. They'll come to me, and then I'll ship them to him, because I'll get a few pictures first with them just to post.
Yeah.
And then so it's really cool. Like he seems so, he's just genuinely just so excited and happy to have them, and that's
awesome.
I mean, he's been very patient, but you can tell he's kind of chomping at the bit to get them, because I believe the same situation where he wants to go home to Quebec, and when he's training this summer and skate with them, and with his friends, and kind of show them off. And that's so that'll be really cool. One thing I did want to mention on Malkin real quick before we get so one of the comments we got a lot on that post was that Malkin looked like he was struggling a little bit in that photo. Just to put a little backstory into that. Okay. That was after the last game in Long Island, and they, when they lost the last game of the season. Yeah. And I think they got in at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I told George, was like, hey, we gotta get a photo before he goes on holiday. And he's like, he's getting in at like 2 in the morning, and then he's leaving the next that morning. I'm like, you got to get a picture of him. And I guess he told me that he was, he had injuries throughout the season, and he was in a lot of pain, and he was like, it was really like 2 or 3 in the morning, so he was a little tired. And I was like, he looks a little fatigued there.
He does. He looks like he's like they had maybe a little end of season celebration on the plane. He definitely, he definitely looks like it's taken at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah, well, he told me he's at least he was excited enough. He went on and put his Nike T-shirt on for the photo. I was like, actually, that's pretty cool. Like he went and did that just for the picture. So anyway,
that is sick.
Yeah, for all
that's
the haters
unreal, man.
Yeah,
that is so cool. Well, yeah, I'm assuming we'll get some photos out there. You'll post some on Just Do Hockey's Instagram or something of the Quebecois dunks, or not the dunks, the skates when they come out that are coming for Chris Letang.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as they get them, I'll get some pictures and some videos, and we'll be posting them there.
Robbie, we'll have to repost those.
We'll get those.
Looking forward to seeing that. Robbie, did you have any more questions for CJ, Robbie, on Just Do Hockey?
I was looking. It took me. I'm ashamed it took me this long to understand where Just Do Hockey came from. I was like, oh, that's where that came from. Nothing too much on the hockey aspect or the gear aspect. I'm looking through some of your designs here, and the Nike Air rollerblades that are blue are absolutely amazing. Those are stunning. I love the design on those. And not, again, going away from Just Do Hockey, I was going through your Instagram, and I saw the picture with you in the Thai international jersey. That's a clean jersey that they put out there. So hopefully we do get to see them at a higher international level, because that's a clean jersey. I will say that.
Actually, two things on that. So the blue skate that you're referring to is actually Tony Hedrick, who I told you works with us and works with Sean from Coast to Coast. That was his design. That one is phenomenal. And it's one of the problems we have is that right now we have so many cool Nike designs, referencing, the footwear and also the old Nike hockey. And we just, we're trying to make them as fast as we can as far as, developing them into skates. So we're working on that. The Thai jersey, that's actually a separate project because, Thailand, like I said, they did so well in the IIHF tournaments, winning gold for both the men's and the women's. The IIHF is kind of weird when it comes to jerseys.
Yeah.
Nike does make a lot of the jerseys for the Olympics. But if you're looking for IIHF jerseys, they're like impossible to get. Even for the players, they're not allowed to keep them. So what I did is I'm working on some what I call IIHF fan jerseys, and that was one that I designed.
Oh, that's sick.
So I'm gonna later this year I'll be putting them online where people can buy them for a lot of obscured countries like Thailand. I'm working on one for Myanmar and Laos. and a lot of Asian countries that you'll be able to buy hockey jerseys for that before weren't available.
Honestly,
That is so cool.
If that goes live, I might cop one of the Thailand ones if that's the one that you're putting out, because it looks like is there something in the letters of Thailand? There's some kind of type.
Yeah,
it looks like there's some kind of writing.
Yeah, there's some different textures that I kind of put into it, and also like the Thai pattern and the elephants. So yeah, it's kind of and the picture it's a little hard to see, but yeah, that's kind of that's one of the things like with roller hockey that jerseys are much more fun and aggressive, and I try to apply a little bit of that to these to make it like where it's traditional, where it's reflecting what the actual national team jerseys look like without infringing on those designs. But to be honest, the Thai national team jersey is very the real one is very basic, and I wanted to create something a little more fun and a little bit more modern. Yeah,
and I love the concept of the piping, the stripe across the I guess lower abdomen being the Thai flag is very, very well done as well. So yeah, when those drop, I might very well be copying a Thailand one because it's just a very clean jersey.
It's such a cool jersey. The Cambodia one too, I think, is awesome. I wanted to ask, and I could be super off base with this. This was just a little hunch that I got. Did you have something to do with the Shoresy jerseys, the Shoresy show jerseys?
No, actually. So I did not. Are they using Verbero jerseys in the show?
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah, so so Verbero is a company that I started out of my garage, actually, like a very, very long time ago, and we grew the brand. I had I had different partners over the years, and then at its peak, and this has kind of always been the thing for me. Like once it gets to the point where, for me, I don't really see any higher ceiling. That was the point kind of for me to exit.
Makes sense.
And that was the point when, like I said, we had been in the NHL for several years, and they still were after that. But yeah, that Verbero is owned by Andy Sutton now. The company that bought Verbero, it's called WSI, and they own a number of brands and licenses in the U.S. They're great guys, and I continue to work with them on some of the other brands like Alkali, which I love. It's a great roller hockey brand, as well as their other brands. And so I actually I'd have no affiliation with Shoresy or the jersey.
Okay.
I know that they're doing very well with it, but I mean, it was my association with Verbero was well before that. But I'm glad that I know Andy is he's really into it and very passionate about it. I'm glad that they've had that success.
Is this former NHL player Andy Sutton?
Correct. Yes.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh. I mean, you're a Penguins fan, so you obviously remember the interview he did. Oh my, this is probably it's when he played for the Senators. I can't remember how it all transpired. I'd have to even look up the interview, but he gave a very bizarre post-game interview after playing the Penguins. I'd have to look it up exactly what he said, but I was wondering if that's who you're talking about. So very cool that he's in the equipment game now.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember the interview. I don't recall it, but I maybe if I see it, I'll remember it. I know it was a while ago that he played for a lot of different teams. So, but yeah, if you find it, definitely send it to me.
We'll have to do that. I want to see that too.
I did find it. He hit Jordan Leopold, and he got a bunch of heat, and he said that I'm an expert or something to that to that degree. I will send it to both of you guys in an email so you can watch it. But yeah, it was it's cool that he's that a lot of these former guys that aren't in the NHL anymore, out of hockey, just retired in general, are in hockey in some form or fashion and getting into the gear game, because I mean, if you're going to get an expert opinion on it, you might as well go to the guys that have played it and wore the stuff, and they kind of have a taste for what works, and they have connections still in the league that they can talk to the guys and kind of give you ideas about what these guys are looking to wear design wise, wear wise. So for you, that has to be a big boost to be able to connect with some of these former players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Andy was, he came in after we sold the company, but during, when we were really growing with Rivera, we worked with a lot of NHL players and former players. Sean Hill, who played a long time in the NHL, he played a long time mainly with Carolina and Minnesota. And I want to say I could be wrong, but I want to say that last Montreal Stanley Cup, I think, Waz rookie year, I think he played for them his rookie year too. But I was pretty close with him. He was just a tremendous guy and was a huge help for us. And he told us so many stories. I don't know why he hasn't been on more podcasts. Cause I mean, he had a story about Coach Hitchcock that literally had me like on the ground laughing. It was one of the funniest stories I've ever heard. But yeah, I mean, he was a great guy, and provided a lot of good feedback, and more importantly, helped us to get in contact with a lot of the current players at the time. Brent Burns was on the Sharks, and I got to meet with him a couple times, and we made a stick with Ribeiro called the Cypress, which we now make with Hopa, the Origin, and it was a wood stick, and Brent Burns was like, he was all about it, getting it for his kids, because I guess they were obsessed with him. So we made a bunch of them and sent them to Brent Burns' kids that were playing youth hockey at the time. It was pretty cool.
That is cool.
That Origin stick is a beautiful, beautiful hockey stick. Let's just get into Hopa now that we're kind of naturally transitioning to that. Hopa is a stick brand, and you make player gear, accessories, and stuff like that. But I've been seeing it, mostly through social media. It's been gaining a lot of popularity in the roller community firsthand for me, but it's out there for, you can get ice hockey sticks for them as well. The customization is something that stood out to me right away with it. I thumb through that website quite often. I don't own a Hopa stick yet, but I will someday. One of the last companies to kind of still offer the 2-piece stick, which we all know is dying and in hard. It's not in the, now that Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau aren't in the NHL anymore. You don't see the 2-piece anymore either. Is there a path for Hopa to ever be in the National Hockey League or in the pro ranks over in North America at all?
Yeah, good question. And by the way, Sid was like one of the last players to use a 2-piece.
That's right.
For a long time. But yeah, I know the 2-piece, it became a bigger part of our brand during COVID, because we had it, and it was something that, to be honest, for us and for anybody, it's a very easy product to offer. There's really no reason not to offer it. Yeah, I mean, we don't do huge volume with it, but there's enough guys that, older guys, especially that play roller hockey or ball hockey, and they want it. There was just no reason not to offer it. And then during COVID, when everything was locked down and most of the rinks were closed around the world, we started offering them, a good, I guess you'd say, like a package where you could get multiple blades and shafts and at a really good price, and with the fiberglass blades, so you go outside and you can do your training, in your garage or your, the street, whatever. And it really kind of blew up a good bit then, because it was something, I guess, like you said, nobody else was offering it, and players wanted to go outside to, at least, get a little hockey in, during that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's, the way Hopa was kind of originated. I work with the factory. It's in Taiwan. Just a tremendous factory and family that owns it. I work with them on multiple brands, and including with Ribeiro, and we spent a long time refining and developing the product. To be honest, with Ribeiro, the Cypress stick, which became the Origin, as beautiful as it was, it had its setbacks. We had some issues with durability that we've improved on a lot with Hopa now. And the factory came to me and they said, working with retailers and selling product the way they were, it's very difficult from a cash flow standpoint. And they said, they wanted to try doing their own thing, but as a factory, they had no idea how to create a brand or marketing or, really anything. They just knew how to make the product. So they asked me to come in as a partner and develop the brand. All they had was the name Hopa, which is Chinese for Hota, which basically means like it's actually more directly translated to baseball when you have that perfect hit, like like when you make perfect contact for like
Like a
line
sweet
drive or
spot.
home. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the more literal translation.
Okay.
Because they also make in Taiwan. Taiwan is one of the most popular countries for baseball. So they do make a lot of baseball products, bats in Taiwan under the Hopa brand. But yeah, that was the way it originated. And then it's really a kind of a modest story, I guess you'd say. We just, we wanted to create products, sell them direct in a way where we could get around issues with retailers where, depending on where you are, but even if you're in an NHL city like Seattle or Pittsburgh, chances are if you go to the Pure Hockey or whatever you have around you, and you want a certain curve, a certain flex, and you want all the customization you need as far as the length goes and everything, it's really hard to get it. And chances are they probably won't have it exactly the way you want. You settle for something else, and you're paying crazy between $200 and $400 for a stick that may last you 2 or 3 months, if you're lucky, because they're around 300 grams now. So the idea was, can we make something really customizable and where it's available anywhere in the world? Where if you're in, we have customers, a lot of them in Ireland and New Zealand and Australia, where it's like really hard to get gear, and you can buy a stick or sticks, have them delivered within 2 weeks or less, at when you're paying just over $100 a stick for a quality one piece stick. It's like it's tough to beat. So that was kind of the idea. As far as going to the NHL, one mistake that I made, or I guess you could say we made with Verbero, I'm glad we did it, but we really pushed to expand and go into NHL and grow the brand, and we grew it massively. But one thing I've learned now is that it's better to grow slowly over time. So for Hopa, maybe one day we could be in the NHL. I don't know, but for us, it's just about creating the best product we can and getting it to the customers. We're much more low key as far as our ambitions, and that's pretty much our goal.
That makes a lot of sense. And one thing you were touching on that resonated with me is like go into like a Pure Hockey or something like that. I'm probably the worst hockey player that buys like pro stock stuff out there because I just want what I want, and you can't get a lot of that stuff. I either have like really nice pro stock stuff, or I go on Sideline Swap. Are you familiar with Sideline Swap?
Oh, of course. I've bought a lot of gear from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm buying like a lot of old, like I'm a huge Easton guy. I have a lot of Easton sticks, a lot of old Easton stuff that really honestly kind of sucks in comparison to the stuff you could probably get at Pure Hockey now, but I'm just a sucker for it. So it's either like pro stock stuff that's very custom to a pro player, and then I have like stuff from like 1998, like a shaft, like Iserman shafts or a Shanny shaft or whatever. So that's one thing that really I like about the Hopa, what Hopa offers is you also offer something, and I wanted to put this out there. You offer shafts. I mean, one pieces or shafts that.
I guess Snail froze up there on us a little bit there. But
did I freeze up on you guys?
Yeah, you kind of just like straight up. You got to one shaft and then just froze.
Oh, sorry about that. My internet must have just crapped out on me for a sec. But what I was trying to say was you guys offer shafts and one pieces that have the non-grip option, the gloss finish, which is something you can't get. You can't get that at Pure Hockey to save your life.
Yeah. We offer a lot of those. The older, I guess, it's not really. I hate to say it, but like the styles that players that are older prefer, as far as the non-grip, having a wide variety of grips. The one thing that I know a lot of our customers beg for, but we don't have available right now, is like the Lidstrom curve, which was really popular 15, 20 years ago. We get a lot of those where but to be honest, the challenge is that every new mold we create, like it's like $4,000 a mold, so it's like $8,000 if you're getting a right and a left hand, So it's a major investment for every, new curve we develop. And but yeah, we try to offer all the mainstream curves right now, and then yeah, a lot more of those more vintage options, like you said. I mean, I think that one of the best features that sometimes gets overlooked with our sticks is that you can match your flex to the length that you actually need. So like for me, I'm a 59 inch, and I can get a 75 flex perfectly made to that length, where if I go to Pure Hockey, and I have to be careful because I work with Pure Hockey, I make products for them. So I have nothing against them, but if you go to any shop, right, so Hockey Monkey, Pure Hockey, wherever,
Right,
and you buy a standard stick that may be 60-61 inches and it's a 75-80 flex, you cut it down, then you're changing the flex, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
so that's one great thing, especially for younger players that maybe they want to a 56 or 55 inch because they're that U16 age, but then they want to get a 55 flex, they can do that. So it's a great feature, I think, for us.
It's awesome. I was looking at the flexes because I feel like when I was younger, you want like a crowbar for a stick, but after seeing guys like Connor Bedard, Austin Matthews, these guys with even Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel is one of my favorite hockey players. The low flex sticks. I saw you offer a 55, which would just be an absolute slingshot, and I love that. I love the customization you can apply to the sticks, and you can try all sorts of stuff. You mentioned you guys offer the P28, which is probably is that the most popular curve right now in hockey?
Yes, the P28, I'd say for the last 10 years has been the most popular.
10 years, okay.
And then the P91 is, P92 are very popular also, but P91 is probably pretty close as well.
And then you offer the old, is it the old Inla curve or like the retail Patty Kane curve, the P88?
Yes, correct.
And then
yeah.
And then the old Zetterberg curve, right? Like the PM9, which is the P90 in your guys' curve.
Yes.
That's my favorite curve. I love that thing. It doesn't give you the lift so much, lifting the puck, but the controls there. And I love that you guys still offer that because you can't really get that curve retail at all.
Yeah, there's a handful of them that we offer that have been discontinued by most of the brands, and I can't specify for their reasons, but I know that like Bauer and CCM, they've limited their curves dramatically now, and like you said, there's only grip available. So I think that they cater to the most popular curves, and now young players have been using grip for their whole lives, right? So especially players that are like 15, 20 and under, they mainly just use grip. So they just stick with what, for what the younger players want. I guess for us, we do offer a bit more for the older guys that are, in their 40s or late 30s.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about here, and for the gear nerds out there that pay attention to our podcast, what stick are you running right now? What curve? What flex? I know you said it's a 59 inch with a 75 flex. What are you running right now?
Yeah, so actually with Ribeiro, we had a pro director. His name's Corby Antropic, and he's now the head equipment manager for Arizona State University. And he was the head equipment manager before he worked with us for many teams, San Francisco Bulls, which was ECHL, and then Stockton Thunder. They became Stockton Heat. And when he came in, he kind of, we had a pretty good staff of hockey guys that were, good or decent men's league players. But one of the things he did was he kind of went around, not forcefully, but like, we would go to him and he would set us straight as far as like little things, like, for me and he's like, don't tie up your top eyelid on your skate. He's like, get more flex, skate lower. And then he like little things like, he's like, switch to a 13-inch glove. He's like, so he just little things that like kind of like a hockey Zen master.
Yeah.
And then for me, he came over, and for everybody, he did something different, right? And then for me, he said switch to a P28, 75 flex. So when I used to manage the rinks, I always used. It was really, you have to go back. So like I grew up as a kid using fiberglass and then aluminum sticks. And like when I was in high school, I started using carbon. Carbon fiber would have been like my junior and senior year, maybe even senior year. So like, and I was using Coho shafts and Canadian shafts. And, but yeah, I thought, oh, I'm going to use 105 flex. And then I'm going to have like the strongest slap shot. Right. And all the way through, like I always just kind of like would do that. And, my shooting was okay. But then finally, when we brought him in and he was working and he kind of gave us all tips, he's like, no, it's like, you're not even loading the stick at all. Like, and again, this was kind of before the real whippy sticks became popular. But then, I switched because I'm 225 pounds and 6'2". So like, people here, I use a 75 flex and they think I'm crazy. But the reality is when I was using 105 flex, I was breaking sticks every week. And granted, luckily our rink had the best pro shop at the time in the region. So I'd just be warranting them left and right. But it was like, it was very expensive. And, what the crazy thing is when I switched to 75 flex, now I never break sticks. Like, I mean, they'll last me. I have and this is what I recommend to people, because, most amateur players, they don't have a real concept of, I guess the technicalities when it comes to these custom sticks or just carbon sticks in general. I recommend having like 3 or 4 sticks on hand. If you can, like every year, like say you invest, granted, if you're going out and you're buying a top end Bauer or CCM or Warrior stick, that's going to be insanely expensive. If you buy 4 sticks from us, if you buy 4 sticks from us for $400, you're paying the same as you're buying from one from them. But if you do that and then you rotate them, so like, every game you're switching and they can all be the same stick, right? But you're rotating them, the lifespan is going to be extended. And like I said, if you can go down and flex and learn how to load it properly, also it should help. But, one of the, I guess, biggest misperceptions in the hockey industry, well, not the industry, but among amateur players is, sticks when they break. Normally the reason for that is that you don't realize it when you're playing, especially if you're playing at a higher level or more aggressive level, but, you get a little slash, you block a shot here or there, even a hard pass, and you get a small stress fracture on your stick. It may not even be visible. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But then over time, that eventually, becomes weaker and it breaks. So, generally speaking, if a stick breaks like the first skate or the first, couple skates, then it might be a factory issue. And of course you warranty it. But if a stick is breaking, months down the line or whatever, that's just from wear and tear. And it's, it's because the nature of the game being aggressive, getting slashes and whatnot, that's usually what causes the breaks.
It makes sense. And for kids out there, if you want to watch somebody and learn how to really load a shot, we talked about him for a second earlier, Rob Schremp. He has if you watch his mechanics, that dude has a wicked awesome shot. He's a bit of a gear nerd too. He's a great follow. He's not as active as he used to be, but he can really show you how to like properly just like flick that puck back and load up a great shot. He's got great mechanics. Yeah, I was going to say also quickly too, Hopa, you guys have that awesome deal where you guys can get 2 sticks. You can get like a 2-pack for like, what is it, like 300 American or something like that?
Yeah, we have a bunch of them depending on which one you choose. But yeah, I mean, we have some for the Pro Plus. I think it's like the Pro Plus model for 2 sticks. It's around, I want to say like $220, $230. So it's just over, $110 a stick, and that includes your shipping. So
that's an unreal deal.
Yeah, so like I said, you can buy a couple of those, and you're basically set for at least a year, probably. So, yeah, it's one of our best perks for sure for the customers.
Everyone listening, go check out Hopa Hockey. Check out Alkali. Is the new glove that just came out? Is it pronounced Selly?
Yeah, it's a Selly Air.
It's a beautiful mitt, dude.
Yeah, I have one in back, and it's the owner of the company, Chris. He that was one of the projects he specifically wanted me to develop for him. And honestly, the feedback from customers has been tremendous. It looks great, but it feels amazing. It's lightweight. It's super breathable. That's definitely a great product for them. They've been making a lot of great stuff recently.
Yeah, check them out. Hope of Hockey again. Check out Just Do Hockey. We've taken enough of your time. You've been super gracious with us. Thank you for entertaining these questions, breaking the mystery on who requested the other pair of the Nike skates. Robbie, you got anything else for him?
I do not. One thing, just so we can get your socials out there for followers, where can we find Just Do Hockey and you yourself as well, CJ?
Sure. Yeah. It's on Instagram. It's Just Do Hockey, just all together, three words. My social is Phantom Owner 27. I used to be a huge Pittsburgh Phantoms fan. Which you guys know that, but the RHI, way back in the day, that's how old I am. So it's, and my number used to be 27. So Phantom Owner 27, and then for Instagram, Just Do Hockey's on Facebook also, but we haven't been posting as much on there. So Instagram is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, so there you have it. Follow CJ and Just Do Hockey on Instagram at those handles. Snail, do you have any last words, or I'll wrap this up here real quick?
Just because of where we're at in the year right now with the Stanley Cup final coming up, are you following the NHL out there at all? Are you staying up to watch games? How does that all work? And do you have a pick for the Stanley Cup winner this year?
So the games here start around 6 a.m. depending on the time of the year with the if it's daylight savings or whatnot, 6 or 7 a.m. With the Penguins, I definitely I follow or watch every game.
Awesome.
I'm kind of a bad sports fan in some ways because I'm so passionate about the Penguins and the Steelers that as soon as they are out of contention or if they lose in the playoffs, whatever, I'm done. I don't watch another game. I do watch some of the highlights, but I do follow along. I know what's going on, and I can't make a prediction. I think that Florida's defense is pretty amazing. Their team toughness is great. Their goaltending is great, and I think their coaching is maybe the best in the league. And you look at who they beat to get to where they are in the final. They beat some amazing teams, and it's pretty impressive. And I think Edmonton clearly has the offense, so it's going to literally be like offense versus defense for the final, which is going to be exciting. And I know all of Canada wants Edmonton to win, and they want Connor to get his cup, which is kind of like when Ovi got his cup, right? Like it was something that was overdue and people wanted it. But I don't know. For me, I like Florida. I like Kachuk. I like the way he plays. I think that that as much as it wrecked my childhood when they beat the Penguins in Game 7, final, as much as that destroyed me, they really do deserve a cup. They've hung in there with tough issues with their arena location and fans and whatnot. So I wouldn't be upset if they won. And if Connor wins, then a lot of the hockey world will be excited. It'd be good for the sport too.
Yeah, I think both Snail and I can agree with that assessment as well. Both teams deserving, but should be a great series. But CJ, from Snail and I, we both want to thank you for joining us. Snail, thank you for setting it all up. A lot of great information, I will say. This will be going live on Thursday morning, our time here in the States. So CJ, you're 12 hours or something ahead of me here on the East Coast. So you'll get it in the evening, and you can feel free to share wherever you wish to as well. We will do as well. But thank you very much for coming on. Great conversation.
Thank you, guys. It was great to be with you.
And maybe in the future, if you move into phase 3 or whatever, we can have you back on to discuss the future plans from there as well. So I know we'd love to have you on again. So for Snail, I'm Robbie. We were joined by CJ Gamble of Just Do Hockey. Thank you guys for tuning in.